A man known by most, Charlie Kirk, was murdered. And whether you admired him or despised him, the reaction to his death reveals something terrifying about America right now. Scroll through social media and you'll see two kinds of posts: grief from his supporters and celebration from his enemies. Celebration of death. That should make all of us stop and ask, how did we get here? How did we reach a place where someone's political label erases their humanity, where their death becomes a punchline, a meme, or worse, a victory? This isn't just politics, this is psychology. More specifically, dark psychology, the kind used to manipulate, divide, and control people. And when you step back, you realize something. What's happening in America today looks a whole lot like a psyop. The term psyop comes from the military. It stands for psychological operations. Unlike conventional warfare, which targets bodies and buildings, psyops target the mind. The weapon isn't a missile or a tank, it's an idea. Think propaganda posters in World War II designed to boost morale on one side and demoralize the enemy on the other. Think radio broadcasts dropping rumors behind enemy lines. Think leaflets convincing soldiers to surrender. That's the old school version. The goal of a psyop isn't to physically defeat you, it's to mentally disarm you. To make you question what's real, to hate your neighbors, to doubt yourself, and to cling harder to whatever authority promises safety. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable. You don't need a shadowy agency pulling strings for psyops to happen. The same tools, propaganda, misinformation, fear conditioning, identity hijacking, can unfold naturally when media, politicians, and social platforms all chase attention and loyalty. And when you look at what's happening in America, the way we're being conditioned to see left and right not as people with different views but as mortal enemies, it's hard not to see psyops written all over it. If psyops are the battlefield, then dark psychology is the arsenal. These are the mental weapons that twist how we see reality and how we treat each other. And right now you can see them everywhere in America. The first weapon, dehumanization. This is when you stop seeing someone as a person and start seeing them as a label, an enemy, or even a threat to be eliminated. It's why some people can cheer the death of Charlie Kirk, not because they're monsters, but because their brain has already filed him under enemy combatant, not human being. We saw the same thing when progressive politicians like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez received death threats and harassment campaigns online. People didn't see her anymore, they saw the symbol of everything they feared or hated about the left. Once dehumanization takes hold, cruelty feels justified. That's how both sides get to the point of saying they deserved it. The second weapon, projection. Projection began as a classic psychology concept. Freud described it as a defense mechanism, but in dark psychology, projection gets weaponized. Instead of unconsciously pushing your flaws onto others, you deliberately accuse your opponents of the very tactics you're guilty of. On the left, you hear that conservatives are uniquely dangerous because they spread misinformation. On the right, you hear that liberals control the media and brainwash the masses. Both contain fragments of truth, but both also serve as weapons, distractions that shift attention away from one's own flaws. The third weapon, tribalism. Humans evolved to protect the group. Back in the Stone Age, it was your clan or tribe. Now it's your political identity. Once politics becomes your tribe, loyalty overrides reason. You don't just disagree with the other side, you defend your side like family, even when they're wrong. The fourth weapon, gaslighting. This is when leaders and media figures tell you what you're seeing isn't what's really happening. A violent protest, mostly peaceful, a deadly riot, tourists getting rowdy. Gaslighting keeps people confused, doubting their own perception and clinging to their chosen authority for the real story. Together, these tactics create a loop, dehumanize the other side, weaponize projection, retreat deeper into your tribe, and deny uncomfortable truths, rinse and repeat. The result? A society where people don't just disagree, they stop living in the same reality. It's easy to believe that violence only comes from the other side. That's the story each camp tells itself. We're the victims, they're the aggressors. But the truth is more complicated. Violence, whether physical, rhetorical or psychological, has shown up on both ends of the spectrum. On the left, we've seen protests spiral into riots, where destruction of property and assaults on bystanders were justified as necessary resistance. Conservative speakers on college campuses have been harassed, shouted down, or even physically attacked because their ideas were labelled as dangerous. And online, when figures like Charlie Kirk or other conservative personalities faced threats, some voices on the left openly mocked or even celebrated the danger they were in. On the right, we've seen the January 6th attack on the Capitol, where anger fueled by election conspiracies exploded into violence against police officers and lawmakers. We've seen progressive officials and activists receive threats, doxing and harassment campaigns online. And just as the left has celebrated harm toward conservatives, there have been moments where some on the right cheered violence against their political opponents, as if owning the libs extended all the way to celebrating pain. Here's the darker truth. When violence happens, each side seizes on it as proof. Proof that they are the real threat. Proof that we are justified in doubling down. This is the psychological trap. It creates a cycle of escalation. Think about it. One side burns buildings and the other says, "See, they're anarchists." The other side storms the Capitol and the response is, "See, they're fascists." Each incident becomes a mirror reflecting fear back at the other tribe. And here's where Psyop logic creeps in, because whether it's intentional or not, the result is the same. Americans stop seeing a tragedy or a crime for what it is, and start seeing it only as ammunition. Human suffering gets reduced to a political talking point. If dark psychology supplies the weapons, the media and algorithms are the delivery systems. They don't just report what happens, they decide what you see, how you see it, and how often you see it. And in today's world, outrage isn't just a byproduct, it's the business model. Traditional media has always known that fear and anger grab attention. A headline about cooperation doesn't sell papers, but one about chaos, scandal, or betrayal. That pulls eyeballs. So when violence breaks out, the story isn't told as some people made bad decisions, it's told as look what they did. And what does it mean for you? But if traditional media pours gasoline on the fire, social media algorithms throw in a match and then fan the flames. Platforms like Facebook, X, TikTok and YouTube are designed to keep you scrolling. And what keeps you scrolling? Not calm debates, not nuanced analysis, but high-voltage emotion. The algorithm doesn't care if that viral video is mocking a conservative or dunking on a liberal. It only cares that you watched it, got angry, shared it, and then came back for more. Outrage spreads faster than empathy because outrage is simpler, sharper, and honestly addictive. Think about how quickly clips go viral after tragedies. One side says, "This is proof conservatives are dangerous." The other side edits the same footage to say, "This is proof liberals are unhinged." Two different feeds, two different realities, and both carefully fed to people who already believe them. The result is psychological reinforcement. You start to believe the other side really is insane, violent, and beyond redemption. And when you're sure of that, you're easier to manipulate, easier to control, and easier to turn against your fellow citizens. Here's the kicker. You're not the customer. You're the product. Your attention is what's being bought and sold. And outrage is the most profitable currency in the game. If you're still with me, it means you care about truth more than tribalism. That's rare. So hey, take a second to like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell. Because these conversations are how we fight back against manipulation together. So far, we've seen how dark psychology sets the trap and how media and algorithms amplify it. But that raises the big question, who actually benefits from this constant division? Because, make no mistake, someone always profits when people turn on each other. Politicians. Division is a political goldmine. If you can convince voters that the other side isn't just wrong but dangerous, you don't need to win them over with policies. You just need to scare them into loyalty. Vote for us or the country collapses is one of the oldest Psyop moves in the book. And it works because fear is more motivating than hope. Media companies, whether left-leaning or right-leaning, news outlets thrive on outrage. A calmer, more united America would be bad for ratings. Every shouting match, every viral scandal, every gotcha clip keeps audiences glued and advertisers paying. Tech platforms. Algorithms don't take sides, they take profits. The more divided and emotional users become, the longer they scroll. And the longer they scroll, the more ads they see. Outrage equals engagement, and engagement equals money. You are the fuel in their machine. Foreign adversaries, Russia, China, and other geopolitical rivals have a clear incentive to see Americans fighting Americans. Disinformation campaigns, troll farms, bot networks. They don't create division from scratch, they just pour gasoline on what's already there. Because a divided America is easier to manipulate, easier to distract, and weaker on the world stage. Domestic opportunists. Finally, there are the grifters, influencers, commentators, even some non-profits and PACs that cash in on keeping you angry. They don't want solutions, they want subscriptions, donations and clicks, and they'll happily sell you fear packaged as truth if it keeps the money flowing. When you step back, you see something chilling. While everyday people pay the cost of division in stress, anger and sometimes violence, entire industries and even foreign powers profit from it. Division isn't just a byproduct, it's a business model. We've talked about tactics, violence, media and profits, but the question hanging over all of this is the one people whisper, is this an actual psyop? Here's the honest answer, maybe yes, maybe no, but the distinction might not matter. When most people hear psyop, they picture a secretive agency in a bunker somewhere, pulling strings, scripting tweets and orchestrating riots. And yes, governments around the world have run those kinds of operations. The United States has done it abroad, Russia does it, China does it, that's on record. But what if the same psychological effects can happen without a central mastermind? What if division is baked into the system itself? Politicians chasing votes, media chasing ratings, tech chasing clicks, foreign adversaries throwing fuel on the fire. Each player has different motives, but the outcome looks the same. A divided, suspicious, angry public. And from the perspective of dark psychology, the effect is what matters. Dehumanization, projection, tribal loyalty, gaslighting, a population too emotionally hijacked to unite, too distrustful to agree on reality, and too distracted to focus on who's benefiting. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." The same is true for societies. Until America sees these tactics for what they are, we'll call our division fate, when in reality it's conditioning. So is it a psyop? If by psyop you mean a deliberate campaign, maybe in part yes. Foreign adversaries have admitted as much, but if you mean the broader condition we're living in, the brainwashing, the dehumanization, the way we're being nudged into self-hatred, then absolutely. Whether or not it's orchestrated, America is living inside a psyop. And Charlie Kirk's death is a perfect example. Instead of being seen as the tragic loss of a human life, it's instantly framed as either proof of conservative victimhood or proof of liberal hypocrisy. The tragedy itself disappears, the human disappears. What remains is ammunition. And that's exactly how psyops succeed, when human empathy is replaced by narrative warfare. So far, we've been talking about society at large, but let's bring this closer to home. What is all of this doing to you, to me, To us as human beings living inside this endless cycle of outrage and division, the first cost is chronic stress, constantly being told your country is on the brink of collapse, that the other side wants to destroy everything you value, keeps your nervous system in fight or flight mode. And here's the thing, humans aren't built to live in fight or flight for years at a time. That kind of stress damages health. It weakens the immune system, raises blood pressure, fuels anxiety and depression. In Psyops, this is deliberate. Wear people down so they're too exhausted to resist. In America today, it's happening all the same. The second cost is empathy collapse. When you're conditioned to see the other side as less than human, your natural capacity for empathy shrinks. That's why people can celebrate death, mock tragedy or laugh at suffering. Once empathy collapses, cruelty becomes normalized, and when cruelty is normal, reconciliation feels impossible. The third cost is moral disengagement. Psychologist Albert Bandura studied how ordinary people justify harmful actions. The trick is mental reframing. They deserved it. It's not as bad as what they did. I'm just following orders. Division fuels the same thing. People don't see themselves as cruel. They see themselves as righteous. And righteousness can excuse almost anything. The fourth cost is fractured reality. When media and algorithms deliver completely different worlds to different groups, the ability to agree on basic facts disappears. And without a shared reality, dialogue breaks down. It's not just that we can't agree on solutions, we can't even agree on what's real. That confusion is itself a weapon. These costs add up. On the surface, it looks like people screaming at each other online or at rallies. But underneath, it's nervous systems burning out, empathy fading, moral lines blurring, and trust dissolving. That's the real price of living in a psyop. You don't just lose peace with your neighbor, you lose peace within yourself. Charlie Kirk's death was a tragedy, but maybe the bigger tragedy is what it revealed. That for many Americans, political identity has become more important than human identity. That people could celebrate the end of a life, not because they knew the man, but because of the label attached to him. That's the Psyop effect. That's what dark psychology does at scale. It convinces you that your neighbor is your enemy, that cruelty is justified, and that empathy is weakness. It turns human beings into symbols to be defended or destroyed. And here's the cruel irony. While we tear each other apart, the real winners are the ones who profit from division. Politicians who rise on fear, media companies who thrive on outrage, tech platforms who monetize your scrolling, foreign adversaries who watch from a distance as America fractures from within. So yes, the question is, who killed Charlie Kirk? But also consider the deeper question which has been highlighted: who benefits when Americans stop seeing each other as people? Because once empathy is gone, once compassion is replaced by contempt, the Psyop is complete. You don't need bombs or bullets when you can convince a nation to hate itself from the inside. And that's where we are now, caught between our better angels and our darkest impulses, forced to choose which voice we listen to.